things that are going to happen. I wish I had my phone with me, but I was holding on to 2 dogs in the seat, so I really couldn't do that. But there's more and more of that happening. I know for the Green Month, there's like a neighborhood watch or whatever, so my wife's going to post to let parents know that, hey, there's kids up here that are not stopping at stop signs and are speeding through the neighborhoods. But you got issues on Grand Central. Had that been busier that day on that Saturday on Grand Central, there would have been a serious wreck. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Chad Emmerich.
Good evening. My name is Chad Emmerich. I am a Vienna resident and live at 303 39th Street, Vienna, West Virginia. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, I want to very briefly touch on a couple of things that were on the last agenda and also will be discussed this evening. Tonight, I'm here to say that I am in favor of working with the Wood County Development Economic Authority, who has been around for a long time. They've been established since the 60s. They're well organized and they have very clear goals for Vienna. I am not in favor of establishing a separate Vienna organization that would reinvent the wheel or repeat work or expand government in this capacity. I believe that Lindsay has a very clear goal of what she is doing. I've been able to speak with her, and she is very knowledgeable about the issues that we face, and it would be in the benefit of Vienna to be able to work with them in that capacity to be able to strengthen our economic development. I also want to really ask a question in regards to agenda item number 7. I am in very much support of whatever it is that Chief Pfeiffer in the Law Enforcement Department of Vienna needs in order to be able to combat the opioid crisis or any illegal activities that go on. What raised my concern in this question is that it said that it will be paid for, or it is to be paid for with opioid money. My questions are these. Have we received the opioid money? If we have, how much is it? If we haven't, how much do we believe we're going to get? And in closing with a last question, it was, if we're getting a very large amount of money in working with government agencies before, I have never been able to commit money that I've not yet received. And if we haven't received it, then how have we planned to actually look at the entire amount of money that we're getting to adequately spend it in an efficient manner in which Vienna gets all of their needs met? I do not believe that we should get this money, piecemeal it together, and spend on a la carte projects as they come up. I just don't think that would, at the end of the day, meet the entire needs and could possibly leave us shortchanged. So if we haven't received the money, we probably need to make bigger plans on how that money can be spent. And if we have the money in the bank ready to spend, we need to have a clear plan on what we want to do with that money as a whole. Thank you.
Tammy Rose.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Rhodes, and I am a Vienna resident, and I live at 4604 6th Avenue.
Tammy, I'm sorry, but can you speak, or you pull a microphone a little closer to you, speak a little louder, please?
Okay, is that better? No? That,
You have a soft voice.
do I? No one has ever accused me of that, ever. What I wanted to talk about was the 2 agenda items on the Economic Development Advisory Committee and the Economic Development Advisory Body. And, no, wait a minute. That's the discussion. The ordinance of the Vienna Economic Development Authority. They all sound too close to me to keep track of them. I read this, and I agree with Chad. I think the Wood County Development Authority needs to be the one that's spearheading the development in the city of Vienna. They have the experience, they have the expertise, they have the knowledge. They've been doing it for a long period of time, and they've been very successful. when I look at these two agenda items, was said that they're really similar, but I see mostly dissimilarities between them. The Economic Development Advisory Committee, the one sponsored by Ms. Williams and Mr. Mancuso, has 7 members. The other one has 5. The members for the Economic Development Advisory Committee that states that they will be qualified by knowledge and experience, which I think is very important. This is too big of a project, and it's too important of a project for anyone to be on a committee like this that doesn't have the experience and doesn't have the know-how to be able to get the job done. The one sponsored by Mr. Leach and Mr. Rapp says that it will be 5 members. There will be the mayor, a council person, and then 3 others appointed or nominated by the mayor, and then confirmed by council. I don't know how to separate the words out because they're all the same. The Economic Development Advisory Committee has to be approved. I'm not sure of the semantics of the words approved by council and confirmed by council. I know there's different context and what they can be used for, but if there's any difference in those terms, in those two, in the ordinance and the resolution, I would like to hear that explanation. The Economic Development Advisory Committee states that it will work with the Wood County Development Authority, and it will have monthly meetings. The ordinance on Vienna Economic Development Authority states that the meetings will be quarterly. And the one thing about that group, the 5-member group that really concerns me, no offense to anyone in this room, but I don't see the mayor or anyone on council, except maybe Mr. Mancuso, as having any experience, so to speak, in the actual performance of economic development. I mean, I don't see that. And then when the members are not recommended, well, I want to get back. In the Economic Development Advisory Committee resolution, it states that the members will be recommended by the Wood County Development Authority or council. So I have a real concern with the mayor choosing 5 members, because we know probably who those will be, or a good majority of them. I would place bets on at least probably 2 of them, and they don't have any experience or any knowledge or any expertise in economic development either. And then the only other thing I had about that was in the way that that one was worded when under the purpose. It says to identify, investigate, plan, and facilitate economic development opportunities. That word investigate throws me off. I think it should be like identify and evaluate. Investigate sounds like a criminal activity to me, and maybe it's just something small, but I think it just reads smoother, when it says something like evaluate or another term that's similar to that. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you.
The minutes from the regular council meetings on December the 14th and January the 11th, 2024 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. Treasurer's report will be given at the first council meeting in February. And so with that, we move on to new business. First item on our agenda this evening is an order authorizing an election for renewal of an existing levy under the provisions of West Virginia Code, Chapter 11, Article 8, Section 16, to provide for the continued operation of the mass transit bus system. Transit Manager Mike Kesterson is with us this evening. This is the same levy that we've authorized for many years, and this is not a vote of the City Council to endorse this or turn it down. This is simply to get it put on the ballot. There, the items in the levy are the same as they have been in the past, except for there is a slight increase due to some increased property values. It's based on a percentage of the property value, so that's why you'll see a slight increase, but it is not a request for an increase by the Transit Authority. So I'll entertain a motion for authorizing the election for renewal of an existing levy under the provisions of West Virginia Code, Chapter 11, Article 8, Section 16, to provide for the continued operation of the mass transit bus system to be put on the ballot.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the order authorizing the levy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. Would you please poll council?
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mike, thank you. Second item on our agenda this evening is a presentation by the North Star Child Advocacy Center. Chief Pfeiffer, would you please introduce our speaker, please?
So a friend, a colleague of mine, Greg Collins, is here on behalf of North Star Child Advocacy Center. And Greg, as you will soon hear from his accent, is from Calhoun County. Got hired in '98 at Parkersburg PD. Worked in a variety of capacities with Parkersburg Police Department. As an investigator, he was on the Parkersburg Narcotics Task Force. He was the commander of the task force for a while, in charge of child abuse investigations for a while. He's done quite a bit. In 2021, he retired. Correct me if any of these things are wrong. 2021, he retired and took over as the executive director for the North Star Child Advocacy Center. And from there, and since then, I think he has taken it to new heights. I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk to you all, to give you some insight into what they do for the city of Vienna, what they do for the Vienna Police Department. So without further ado, Greg Collins, I'm going to pass out some handouts to council, and I'll help with the audio visual here while he's talking.
Thank you for inviting me here tonight to speak on the agenda. It was made me feel very good about what you all prioritize in our communities, that you would ask me to speak to you about a tough subject that people don't like to talk about. And I think first I would like to start with some quotes that we hear in our center from the kids we see. I just pulled out a handful. I try to keep them on hand because they tend to get good results when people are trying to figure out just what we're all about. Some children quotes. I got hit with everything, but I'm used to it. He hurts me, but it's okay because he loves me. I'd rather die than go back in there. I don't want to be a burden. I feel like that every day. It's always in the back of my mind. Mom was perfect before she started using drugs. Now she's the devil. I don't want to die, but I also don't want to live like this. Anytime we would have sex, he would put a pillow over my face and I couldn't breathe. After that would happen, he would make me pray with him. Daddy hurts everybody in our family. The demon will always be inside of me and will never come out. Don't tell Mommy and Daddy my secrets. I'll get in trouble. Don't tell them I trusted you. He would talk to me, but he would only get real close when I knew it was about ready to happen. It's always been like a stabbing, like my body didn't want to accept it. It's not like I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to leave my family. These are real, these are our kids. These aren't pulled from a nationwide forum. These are our kids here. A lot of people don't know about North Star, and we used to be the children's listening place if some people are trying to make the connection. North Star, there are 21 child advocacy centers in West Virginia, and we cover every county in the state except for 9. During the fiscal year, West Virginia CAC saw 4,879 children, a nearly 10% increase in children served in the last 5 years. North Star is the largest CAC, serving Wood, Wirt, Ritchie, Pleasants, and Calhoun counties. And North Star is the busiest CAC, seeing over 600 children in each of the last 4 years. In 2023, North Star Child Advocacy Center saw 604 children during the calendar year. 475 of those children were from Wood County alone, which is only 14 fewer than we saw in 2022. The 4th year in a row that we have exceeded 600 children in a single calendar year, and the first time we have seen a decrease in the number of children seen since 2018. With that decrease, it doesn't mean there was less child abuse. Keeping in mind that our cases only come from CPS and law enforcement that are active investigations, there were times in 2023 when both struggled to keep up with our cases. High caseloads, low manpower, and mental health fatigue of the people doing the daily work are all key to what we see coming in the door. Again, the only children, and this is something that's a misconception, the only children that North Star sees or from CPS or from law enforcement, and they have to be an active investigation. We do not have a walk-in policy. You can't bring a child up there and say, I need you to interview them to see what's happening. These are active investigations. We're not your typical nonprofit. We provide a service to law enforcement and to CPS directly. Another misconception is that all the children we see disclose abuse, and that's not the case. Last year, 78% disclosed abuse. The other 22% did not. What we do is to try to find the truth from the child without putting words or things in that child's mind that make them say certain things. As police officers, we're kind of hardwired to interrogate. That's what makes it extremely dangerous when you're investigating or interviewing a child. You inadvertently say things to get to elicit an answer from them, and that's not what you want as you go into the court. One thing I'm proud of is the last fiscal year, 44 cases, there were criminal charges filed, as opposed to 26 the year before. 44 cases as opposed to 26. 44% of the children served were there because of allegations of sexual abuse. 34% were there because of allegations of drug endangerment. And the thing that jumps out about that number is the number statewide was 14%, and the number nationally was 3%. And again, our number was 34%. And we all know that this is a problem. And everybody who has an addiction, who overdoses, has kids. We see those kids. And our belief is if we don't fix those kids, they'll be the next generation of problems because it's the way they grew up. 45% of the children served were between the ages of 7 and 12 years old. 60% of the children seen were female. 90% of the alleged offenders were over 18 years old. 98%, which the number's probably higher, of the alleged offenders were someone the child knew. 98% of the offenders were someone the child knew. The majority of those people were family. The majority, 51% of those, were biological parents committing these crimes. 48% of the children we saw were reported to have one or more disabilities. The statewide number is 30%. My staff does a tremendous job of meeting the child where they are emotionally, intellectually. We have 8-year-olds that act like 16-year-olds. We have 16-year-olds that act like 8-year-olds. We have performed an interview this week on a 39-year-old female who is allegedly sexually abused, and she has Down syndrome. what this staff does is nothing less than remarkable. 6% of the children we saw received a medical exam. We're trying to make that higher because if you abuse a child, you don't want them seeing a doctor. So we know the children we see, this may be the one and only chance they get to get a medical exam and actually get some help, and we're trying to increase those numbers. 15 criminal indictments last fiscal year, as opposed to 3 the year prior. I'm not good at math, but I think that's somewhere about 400% increase in what we're doing. 0 offenders were declared not guilty. The quality that we help bring to the system is immeasurable. There are approximately 22,487 children in a 5-county area that we cover. At this time, there are 9 CACs in West Virginia that are partially funded by county commissions. There are 3 funded by municipalities. Our operating budget is $544,686,000. Staff, and this number is pretty remarkable to me also, given we see over 600 kids, we have 5 staff forensic interviewers, and they are also cross-trained as family advocates. The amount of trauma that this staff takes on daily, it keeps coming through the door and it builds up. And my hardest job as the executive director of this facility is to take care of my staff and provide them the relief they need to go back in and be 100% for the next child that walks through the door. It's a lot of trauma. It's built up. It affects their lives, their moms. They have personal problems. They have pets dying. They have kids that are sick. They have relatives that are sick and dying, but we're expecting them to take care of our children at the highest pace in West Virginia. And I'm really proud of them for what they do and how resilient they are. On July 1st of this year, we're going to lose the ENCOVA, which was once the Brick Street grant that's been providing us $50,000 per year for the last 8 years. It will no longer exist. It's not that we don't qualify for it. They're doing away with it completely. The VOCA grant, the federal grant, was frozen at our 2021 amount after some smaller yet significant cuts in the past 3 years. The projected VOCA cut for October 2024 is 57%. 86% in October of 2025. VOCA is 42% of our budget. For those who don't know, VOCA is the Victim of Crimes Act Fund, and it was created by Congress in '84 to provide federal support to state and local programs that assist victims of crime. VOCA is not funded by taxpayers. It is funded by fines and arrests of convicted criminals only. State grants account for 26% of our budget and also in jeopardy of being cut during this legislative session. Foundations account for 14% of North Star's budget. Foundations such as Sisters Health Foundation, Parkersburg Area Community Foundation, McDonough Foundation, etc. United Way has covered our entire medical program for several years. Our program is one of 3 in the state of West Virginia out of the 21 centers that offers medical for a child. So what that says basically, if a child is sexually assaulted or alleged to be sexually assaulted, we'll do a forensic medical exam to find evidence, hopefully find evidence, but we're also trying to take care of that child. Camden Clark doesn't have this ability. They have just recently hired a pediatric physician who could now do it during clinical hours only. We are a 24/7, 365 facility. If this happens at 1 o'clock in the morning, we'll see him at 2 o'clock. If we did not have this medical program, we would have to transport that kid after they were sexually assaulted to Morgantown, Bridgeport, or Charleston for a forensic medical exam. Excuse me, we know you've been physically and sexually assaulted, but we're going to have to drive you halfway across the state to get an exam. Can't happen. So thankfully, United Way has paid for this program. I went in and talked to them this year and I asked for $14,000. United Way has become such a fan and a supporter of what we do. When I left there, they give me $20,000. and said, "You do good." So we're trying to do better. There's some specific numbers below that that you all can see. The percentages of children that we saw that were from Wood County in the last 4 years were 71, 76, 75, and this year, 79%. Now, that's a little bit misleading because what I don't want people to think is that we are a county full of abusers and pedophiles because of this number, because that's not actually the case. I don't believe. We have 150 police officers. We have 34 CPS workers. We have a dozen or so prosecutors, assistant prosecutors, and advocates, and we work and we do well. Calhoun County has 1 prosecutor and a secretary, 1 sheriff, and 3 state troopers. Wirt County has 3 deputies, no state police, and a part-time prosecutor and a secretary. You can't get the same percentage, same numbers out of places like that. So we provide our services to try to help bolster them. When I interviewed, or when I did child sex crimes in 2000 through 2002, we didn't have a CAC. And I interviewed kids in the same room I interviewed homicide suspects. And I went to CPS and I sat in basement floors to try to get on the same level as a 4 or 5 year old that was trying to tell me their story. As you can imagine, as Chief Pfeiffer alluded to, a 6'3" redneck that's coming through the door in a uniform is not something that a child can warm up to quickly, but I felt like I did pretty good. I can't do as good as what these girls do. To go to ERs, if you've been in an ER to try to get a child that's been sexually assaulted, and the general population at the ER is just, it's criminal. What we do is we bring everybody to us. As soon as the disclosure is made and the determination is made that we need an interview, they come to us. Law enforcement calls us. CPS calls us, and we do the interview, and they come up and they watch from the other side of the wall, and we record it. And that child tells their story one time, and one time only. There's no need to tell it 4 times to teachers, to police, to ERs, and to CPS. That's what CACs do. There's over 900 in the United States. And it surprises me that so many people don't know about what child advocacy centers do. It's not uncommon. I'd see it daily. What we do is important to these kids here, and these are our kids. And I appreciate you letting me educate you on the gem that you have in the valley, and the biggest and the busiest in the state of West Virginia, and that's some good work that's happening on the hill up there. And I would invite you all to come up and please take a tour and visit with us and see where the work's done, because 100% of the time since I came 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when someone comes through the door, something happens to them emotionally, physically. You don't leave the same person when you see the rooms where these children are talked to, and you see the medical room where these exams are done. So I would love to get you up there to see that change in you, and everybody becomes a supporter that comes through the door. And I want to thank you for letting Mike Pfeiffer, Chief Pfeiffer, be on my board, because he is an amazing asset for us. He's a worker, he's a go-getter, and he makes Vienna look super well whenever he speaks. And that says volumes about your city. I appreciate it.
Greg, I'd like to thank you for the work that you do and all of your staff do. I know that I personally could not do that. If I had to be around those kids, I would not be able to sleep at night. But what age children do you take care of?
3 to 18. We see them if they're over 18, if they have a disability. So the 39-year-old with Down syndrome falls well within our accreditation standards. And it takes highly trained personnel to try to talk to and get information from a person with disabilities.
Okay, thank you. All right. Chief Pfeiffer, you're an excellent assistant.
I've worked hard at this.
Hey, Greg, I just want to say how well presented and prepared you were, and the work you guys do. I just really appreciate it.
Next on our agenda this evening is a presentation from Bill Monterosa, who works with Workforce West Virginia. Bill, if you'd like to come up. Please.
Good, good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Give it your fish title.
Hi, stranger. How you doing?
Hi.
Well, let me, I don't have an assistant, so let me see if I can figure.
Well, let me help you out. Move over to the microphone so we can hear you.
Yeah, let me, can you see that, or can you expand it? Well,
Help's on the way.
Are you Ben?
You got it. I'll work on it. You
Oh,
got
he was sandbagging you, Chief.
Yeah. Hey, it's job security right here. But we'll just do this part first.
Yeah, I can move that up. Thank you. How you been?
Good.
Good. All right, can you hear me? All right. So I'm Bill Monterosa. I'm the Executive Director with the Workforce Development Board. Mr. Emmerich actually gave me a good segue, and then Greg did such a phenomenal job, was like, oh my goodness, how do I, now I feel like, put me on the next agenda. So my interest is to give you actually an opportunity to at least think about how to spend some of that opioid settlement, okay? So what we do with the Workforce Development Board is create opportunities for individuals from 14 years old all the way to 70 years old, okay? Workforce development, career pathways, those type of things. Our vision in the last year has been from an old Guy Clark song, if there's any Guy Clark fans here. It's a song called Capes. And the theory behind that song is basically trusting in your cape and taking a leap of faith, because basically at the end of the day, life is a leap of faith. And how do we get youth, these young kids, to understand the career opportunities that awaits them? How do we create equity amongst, we cover a 9-county area, so we have extremely rural areas. One of our counties is Calhoun County. As far south as Clay County, as far west as Mason County, as far north as just right up the road to Pleasants County, St. Mary's. And then we have Wirt, Roan, Ritchie, all intertwined in there. So we cover a diverse population. And economic development is our initiative. So I was excited to see that Vienna said, you know, we're going to establish an economic development committee. We're going to put opportunities in Vienna and create opportunities for our communities. And this is my proposal. So it's going to be a cultural campaign to not only focus on the economic development aspect of it and career development, but simultaneously focus on cultural aspects. Why people are impoverished, why people are afraid to take that leap of faith and overcome those barriers, expose them to opportunities. Not only we have a virtual platform, and it's called, we've coined it, Looking at Your Future Through a Virtual Lens, where these youth at any age, and we incorporate it with our adult population as well through our case managers, where individuals can see directly career pathways. And I coin it as also as a human GPS, where individuals can, you know, everyone has a phone, an iPhone. I see people using them all over the place here tonight. And if you forgot how to get home, and if you remember your address, you could put it in your phone and it'll tell you exactly how to get there. And if you want to go somewhere in Florida to eat crabs somewhere or clams or whatever the case may be at the best seafood place, Put it in your phone, never been there, it'll get you there. So a human GPS follows that model of putting together those pieces. And if an individual follows A, B, C, and D, career development, career pathways, developing those talent pipelines, putting those individuals in their path, I call them positive influences, so they can go from here to here that leads to career opportunities. That's the point of a human GPS. Sector pathways. You've heard a lot of buzz about Nucor, the largest steel manufacturing plant in the United States, and the Berkshire Hathaway Initiative, and those are wonderful. But the biggest challenge is, how do we get those number of people employed in those well-paying jobs, right? How do we simultaneously not only bring new jobs to our population in our areas, our counties, or our cities, but how do we maintain the existing one? Because the challenge for economic development isn't the sexy part of having these huge companies come to our region and be blessed by those opportunities, but at the simultaneously not neglecting the existing business that's going to potentially lose. So how do we backfill, and how do we create prosperity for everyone? So that's part of that sector pathway training. So if I just moved that. Sector support for strengthening employer partnerships and relationships, because it's all fine and dandy to create career pathways, to have career exploration for individuals to see their future. But if you don't have the businesses lined up and those positive influences lined up, that false hope is false hope. And that's one of the things that I want to stress is I'm very sensitive to the opioid crisis. There's probably not a single person in this room that hasn't been impacted in some way by the opioid crisis, whether it's your neighbor who's been impacted, your relative that's been impacted, personally been impacted. I don't care who you are, and if you say you haven't, you're lying, because we've all been impacted in some way, directly or indirectly. My philosophy is from the preventive model. I would like to utilize those dollars potentially, and I'm not asking for a number. I'm asking for a second meeting when you figure out what you have and what makes sense for you. I have a number in my head, but I don't want to shock anybody. All right. Why do we need that? West Virginia, unfortunately, comes last in most things. One of the things we come last in is workforce participation. Our workforce participation rate, those who are available to work, is hovering around 54, almost 55%. We went up about 1% from 53 point something percent. We're up to 54. We can't settle for that. Wood County treatment facilities for recovery. In the entire state, we hold roughly 25%. And they're coming, I'm not getting on a bandwagon, but they're not just coming from Wood County. They're coming from all over the place. And place of origin is, well, if I passed out, this is my place of origin right now. And I live in Ohio, okay? But this would be my place of origin. What do we do to overcome the lack of meaningful occupational and, more importantly, life skills, okay? So I am very blessed and fortunate to oversee a system, not just an organization, an entire system that takes those individuals, those young individuals, and my focus will be threefold, actually, but it's a comprehensive plan. I'm in discussions right now with Ryan Taylor, who's with Pickering. There's a facility that's in Vienna, that's multiple thousands of square feet, that would be prime for pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. I have the best relationship with the trades. I can walk into Buddy Malone's office every Friday at 10 a.m. when the carpenters, the sheet metal, the electrical, every single union is there. I could walk in at any time because of the relationships that we have, and we could have an apprenticeship starting in the 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and giving individuals hope. Because the only thing we can ask for in this life, and I don't care who you are, is hope, right? We hope for a better tomorrow. We hope for a better future. We hope for a better relationship. And as Greg will tell you, people hope for just not to be in pain or not to be sad or not to be in anguish. So our goal is to create hope for individuals to follow career pathways, to put positive influences in their path, to build those relationships and fortify and galvanize those relationships and build a nucleus around those young kids. So as they're following that human GPS, going from point A to point B to point C, there's hope and there's a future and there's real, because hope is only as good as something that you think you can fulfill. And that virtual platform cuts away real quickly. It's fine to say, this is my interest. I'm interested in this. I remember years ago, actually, the examples, I lived in Point Pleasant. So when I first came, I'm just telling Greg this. So when I first came from, I was in the Marine Corps, got out of the Marine Corps. My wife was my middleman for Glenville State College, lived on Pleasant Hill. There was a youth that lived in Calhoun County who said he wanted to be a NASCAR driver. And I said, you don't even have your license. No, but I drove my grandpa's riding lawnmower all the time. Well, he was equating that with driving NASCAR. Two different things. We have to forget about interest is fine, but what's aptitude, what's ability to create positive hope, actual hope, as opposed to false hope. Creating talent pipelines. It's critical that we have workforce when you're trying to attract business. Taxes is one thing, population, schools, but you have to have the talent pool. So my goal is to use that CAPES theory, capturing Appalachian prosperity through economic success. Everything begins and ends with that. Any initiative that workforce development does, any initiative that, quite frankly, this city does, needs to end with economic development. There is no cure. The opposite, the very last part of this handout says the opposite of addiction is connection. That's what we do. We connect people to pathways. We connect people to partner services. We connect partners to each other. We make referrals. We make entities. We create those positive life choices. And unfortunately, why I'm here, I get Department of Labor dollars. Okay, I'm talking to these guys. You guys are the ones making the decision, but I'm going to talk to the whole entire crowd because it's important, because we're all part of this community, whether we like it or not. I live in Belpre, but I work in Wood County. Okay, my kids grew up here in Wood County. They went to high school in Wood County. So I have a vested interest in not only Vienna, but Wood County as a whole. The opposite of addiction is connection. And it's critical that as a community, we take a viable effort to take in whatever measures possible to create opportunity for young kids. Our legislation is called WIOA, Workforce Innovative Opportunity Act. The money comes from the Department of Labor. It's part of legislation. So it's a legislative act that dollars are divided among the nation to every state in the union. We are one of 7 regions, so that money's then cut at the state level 7 ways based on economic population, rural areas. There's a whole formula. We only can spend 25% of our entire funding, which continues to go down every year, and Greg's very familiar with funding going this way. No matter what good work you do, sometimes our money, we work twice as hard for half the money. Our money continues to go down, but on top of that, only 25% of our youth budget can be spent on in-school youth. You can't build a talent pipeline starting with someone who's 25 years old. You have to reach down to the youngest age that makes sense. So this is a prime opportunity to take advantage of money that's given to the cities to have a direct economic impact, not just today, but for our future. Thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
So, Lindsay Pearsall and I have both served on the board for a long time. And so when we as a council have our discussions about where our opioid money is going to be spent, other than the police department, which I consider to be a need, not a want. One of the things that I think is very critically important is the programs that you're putting forth, Bill, because these people that are coming back, if you don't have a job, you have no base. And so the training programs that you're associated with, the apprenticeships, all of those things, I look forward to the success stories where you take a guy that, either got out of jail or he's been in a recovery home or whatever, and you teach him a trade. And now all of a sudden he's making good money, he's got a place to live. And those are the things that we have to provide opportunities to. And so I support what you're doing. And, it was brought up earlier this evening about the opioid money and what have you. We have received our opioid money. We received $193,000. Council voted back on December the 14th to establish a separate bank account for that, which has been done. The problem with the opioid money, it's like every other fund that you get, it comes in dribbles. There's so many different pharmaceutical companies out there that, they've all lost and they have to pay, but they've all set up payment schedules. And so we don't know when the next check will come. It's just whatever the payment schedule is. And so until we get a better handle on, how much money we're going to actually get and what it is, there's not huge numbers. All right. So $193,000 is not small change, but on the other hand, it would only be able to help your program. So, we'll do the best we can to take a look at that. And, hopefully we can find a way to, get some help for the training programs and what have you, because I honestly feel that there is a huge need to give these people a fresh start.
Yeah. I'm sensitive to your time. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak, but, I can go on and on and on about some of the positive things we did. Just a point of interest, I just sealed for Transfer, who does the virtual platform with us, we just sealed a $2 million deal that Department, DOC, statewide Department of Corrections, we are hand in hand going to be developing simulations for the guards, how to react, how to do, which has never been done in the entire nation. So soon we will have a first in West Virginia, and I'm proud to be part of that. That will be trickled down to the police department of training situations, every scenario you can think of from a virtual platform to kind of have individuals for a pre-screening understand the job and the responsibilities and weed out the ones that aren't going to be suited out front rather than wasting a lot of dollars in training or making improper decisions. So that's just part of what we do. So there's a lot of positive things. So again, any other questions? I appreciate your time, and I look forward to at least meeting with whoever to further talk about the true vision and what we can potentially do. So.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you. I'll just leave. I got several here if anyone wants to, if you guys want to grab one or whatever, I'll just leave them here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening, matter of fact, the next three items on our agenda this evening are reappointments to the Vienna Planning Commission. The first item that we have is a resolution reappointing Carl Tanner to the City of Vienna Planning Commission. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Carl Tanner, qualified by knowledge and experience in matters pertaining to the development of the city, shall be appointed to a full and regular 3-year term on the City of Vienna Planning Commission. I will entertain a motion for the reappointment of Carl Tanner to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we reappoint Carl Tanner to the Vienna Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your, would you please poll the council?
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is a resolution reappointing Jim Sims to the City of Vienna Planning Commission. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Jim Sims, qualified by knowledge and experience in matters pertaining to the development of the city, shall be appointed to a full and regular 3-year term of the City of Vienna Planning Commission. I will entertain a motion for the approval of a resolution reappointing Jim Sims to the City of Vienna Planning Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution of reappointing Jim Sims to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please poll the jury, poll the council.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Could you repeat that, Tom?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Item number 6 this evening is a resolution reappointing Jamie Witkowski to the City of Vienna Planning Commission. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Jamie Witkowski, qualified by knowledge and experience in matters pertaining to the development of the city, shall be reappointed to a full and regular 3-year term of the City of Vienna Planning Commission. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the reappointment of Jamie Witkowski to the City of Vienna Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution reappointing Jamie Witkowski to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. Would you poll the council? I gotta get out of the courtroom, Russ. Jeez.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Next item on our agenda this evening is a resolution approving an expenditure from the opioid settlement funds for the purchase of a dual-purpose canine officer and for training the canine officer and its handler for a sum not to exceed $13,000. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that dual-purpose canine officers are invaluable assets necessary to assist police officers investigating and prosecuting criminal drug activity. Council recognizes that the current canine officer, Ronan, is approximately 9 years old and nearing the end of his working life. Council further acknowledges that it takes considerable time and resources to select and train canine officers. Because of the importance of canine officers to law enforcement and the city and the citizens of Vienna, the council authorizes an expenditure of up to $13,000 from opioid litigation settlement funds to purchase a dual-purpose canine officer and to train both the canine officer and its handler. Further, council authorizes the Vienna Police Chief to acquire the canine officer from Pine Grove Kennel, a qualified provider exempt from competitive building as a single source provider under Vienna Municipal Code 105.04 and exempt under 105.05 professional services for training. Chief, before I ask for a motion on this, would you care to add anything to this?
Sure, I mean, I can add whatever that you want, but I think this is something that fits right in the wheelhouse of what we should be doing with the opioid money. It comes at the right time. It's a time of need. Our dog is aging. You can notice some things, and I think for the purpose of the treating the dog well, you want to have a dog all the way to the end of its life. So Ronan has been fantastic. I'm very happy with the performance of Pine Brook Kennel. We've used them several times. Been doing this for decades. These dogs are from Germany. Typically, they come over. They're selected throughout the kennel. They match them with the handler's qualities, so they're a good match for the handler. So I think it's a really good opportunity for the city. I think it's, like I said, I think it fits well within our bounds, and I think it would be a good time to act.
The one thing I'd like to add to Chief's remarks is the timing on this just happened to coincide. The dog is to the age where we have to replace him. And the other thing is, in doing our due diligence, the finance department has been gathering information about what are the approved things that you can spend the opioid money on. And it just turns out that the number one item that has been approved has been the purchase of a dog. It is one of those things that it's just, it's a no given for that thing because, it's very well needed, and this is exactly what that money was designed for. So that's the reason why it's coming in under the opioid money. And so with that, I'll entertain a motion approving an expenditure from opioid settlement funds for the purchase of a dual-purpose canine officer and for training the canine officer and its handler for a sum not to exceed $13,000.
So moved.
I think everybody's waiting on Tom. Second. Hey, Chief, I'll also note you and our canine are looking more and more alike as you guys. Yeah, very attractive. I mean, very handsome.
Tom, are you still with us?
Yeah, what happens to the one we have now? Does somebody take him and care for him?
He'll stay with his handler even after he leaves the service line, he stays with his handler.
Yeah, council will have to, when the time comes for running to retire, council will have to accept basically the dog's retirement and give the officer the opportunity to continue to care for the dog. And there's some other little steps to it, but he essentially gets to stay.
I'll add the canine handler.
Yeah,
that's his family.
Yeah.
So he's well taken care of.
He's well taken.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no further discussion.
I had a question, though. Chief, hi. I just have a quick question. If this opioid settlement money was not available at this time, how would you have funded this?
Well, I can tell you there's a couple ways that you could strategize to do this. One, you can put it in the budget. Two, you can go to donation. Three, you could use some other sort. So if this is something like asset forfeiture that you want to use it from, like that. So the Ronin was purchased by private donor.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't remember right now, but I know there's significant money in asset forfeiture.
There would be enough to cover it.
Okay, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's great. I just, we haven't even, this was the first that I realized that the money has started to trickle in, and we just haven't had a conversation about how we see that money being used. And so we're here this evening allocating that, or making a decision about it, which is fine. But I just wondered, in normal times, how would we have done that if we didn't have this windfall of the opioid settlement money?
I venture to say probably one of those three ways.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'd comment, I wouldn't see this as a windfall by any means. And I think that the department sees a little bit symbolic, don't you? As far as all the effort that's been put in fighting the opioid crisis, and this money comes in and
I would say, to comment on what the mayor said, like, I think probably it's an easy hit. You know, it's like,
Right.
what are we doing to address the opioid issue? I think that's a good fit. I think this is a good fit.
All right, if there's no further discussion. All right, Chris, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So, I understand this probably does make a lot of sense with the opioid money, but I have to agree with Kim. This is the first time council has kind of been informed that we've even received those funds. And not entirely sure how we're going to use the rest of it, but we should definitely, have a plan in place. Not that this isn't a good need, but I would hate to see that money get whittled away $13,000, $15,000 at a time without being thoughtful about the impact that this money could have for the city of Vienna.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, then I'll call for the question. Would you poll the council, please?
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Just as a note for all of you, there will be a line item on the reconciliation of funds, which Mr. Leach will give to us at the first meeting in February, that will carry a line item with the amount of money in the opioid funds. And so you will know how much is there and what to do, all right? And at some point, when council is ready, we will either have a discussion or some presentation of what to do with the remainder of those funds, all right? I know that Chief Pfeiffer has a list of items that he would like for consideration, which of course, every one of the ones he has will fit this perfectly. And obviously, the items that Mr. Monteroso spoke about this evening, I do believe that I would like to at least put it on the table for consideration for some training funds to provide job skills for those people. So that will be a future item for our agenda. All right. Next item on our agenda this evening is a resolution creating the position of evidence technician / criminal investigator. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby creates the position of evidence technician / criminal investigator in the Vienna Police Department. The position is a full-time, non-exempt civilian position. The salary for this position is between $52,000 to $55,000 per year, contingent upon experience with full benefits. The job description for the position is attached, but is subject to change based on review and recommendations by the Vienna Police Chief and Human Resources. The position is a non-civil service position. Mr. Leach, I believe that this was funded in our last budget.
Correct.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution creating the position of evidence technician / criminal investigator.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Chief Pfeiffer, did you?
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, sir.
I was just up here to answer any questions about it. I know we had went over some when we talked about it some time ago in the budget. What I will add, I think this brings some quality to the table. This is a position that's obviously going to require some investigative law enforcement experience, maybe some supervisory experience as well. And I think it brings some quality to the table. I think you've seen generally all the Wood County police agencies already have gone down this path. And I think it is bringing quality to the table. And when there is experience out there and available, I think we should be a part of that. I think it will be a cost-saving measure to the city. Instead of adding police, which we've had issues throughout the years, and we're really fortunate right now where we're setting. And I really think it sets us up for some success. So, and we can go into detail about that, any of these things, if you have questions of what they're doing or whatever.
Any questions of Chief Pfeiffer? Is there any further discussion? Then would you please poll council?
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Item number 9 this evening is the discussion for the formation of an economic development advisory body. I'm really glad that we tabled these items at the last council meeting, because in that 2-week period, I've had an opportunity to do some research and talk to several people about this issue. And I can honestly say that on some of these, I have completely changed my opinion from what I felt like 2 weeks ago. I was opposed to the Economic Development Authority under Lindsay setting the stakeholder organization, because I felt like if that stakeholder organization needed to be put together, it should be Vienna residents who know Vienna and know them well. And the more discussion that I had with people and the longer that I thought about this, I am absolutely now in favor of that stakeholder group. I believe that the list that was submitted of possible candidates, you don't know how many people will agree to do it, but the list of possible candidates have a large number of people that are Vienna residents. And I think their expertise in whatever field they're in will bring a wide variety of economic development opportunities and interests for our discussion. And so I trust Lindsay. I know that absolutely if she starts this, if she gets the cooperation out of the people that are volunteering to do it, because, you know, it's hard to get people to volunteer for things nowadays. But I know that she will gather information that we will all find useful. And there are going to be things we never thought of. That's just the way it works, because when you get a large group of people together that have the diversity that she's got on that list, I think there's going to be some great items come out of that. So I am in favor of the agreement to do the resolution with the Wood County Economic Development Authority. I think that's an excellent investment of the money that we are willing to put into this. And frankly, I do believe that one of the worst things one of the things that we lack in is our ability to sell ourselves. We are the pride of the valley, and we offer a lot, but we don't do a very good job of selling ourselves. And so with all of the new people that are going to be coming to this area to live for these new jobs that are coming, even down the river, people will live here and drive that far. And I just think that we need to be prepared for the things that are coming. We have to tell people about how good we are and the things that we do right. And so I know that I appreciate the fact that we had some time to think about this, and so we'll move on. Mr. Leach?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, you know, we've got this resolution and then the ordinance. We've gone for a long time back and forth with the Wood County Economic Development Authority, and I'd like to have a little bit of insight from Lindsay tonight on, you know, these proposals that we're drafting, what she thinks of them, if she's willing to speak to us tonight, and to help inform our judgment as we move forward in this, because this is a broad context of things we're doing right. There's a lot of moving parts right now. So, Lindsay, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, you know, if you're willing to talk to us a little bit about what's going on here, we'd appreciate it, I think.
Everyone hear me? I've also never been called soft-voiced, or softly spoken. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm really glad to be here and for the discussions about the economic development proposal. I want to start by saying that I think everybody has the same end goal in mind, right? We want new residents to come to Vienna. We want growth of businesses in Vienna. It's just taking a little longer to get there. So the stakeholder list that I've provided, I'm absolutely positive that all of them either live or work, or live and work in Vienna. So there's no one on that list that does not either live or work within Vienna city limits. So I tried to be very strategic. I spoke with people on my board about people who would be, you know, good advocates for the city of Vienna. And we want to make sure that we're inclusive of those folks. So everybody has a voice and an opinion on that. I hear every day about items that Wood County needs or Vienna needs or Parkersburg needs. And I'm really excited to hear what these people think that Vienna needs and try to put that into action by going after some of the USEDA, ARC funds that are available and are out there. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have. I think that as far as the resolution and the ordinance, whichever are on there this evening, I've had discussions with people about this. So I have two boards, the Development Authority Board and the Corporation Board. The Development Authority Board, Mayor Rapp is a member of, as he is the Corporation Board by statute, since he is mayor. The City of Parkersburg mayor is on the board, as is an appointed council person. So that's an option as well for an actual council seat on the Development Authority Board, if someone's interested in that. But I think that I look forward to hearing your thoughts on who belongs on that list and how you'd like to see it go. I just know that this is the time to go after some of these sites, get them developed while there's money and funds out there to do so. And honestly, the stars are just aligning with opportunities. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So as we approach, I think we see the value in what you're bringing to the table and what WCDA will be able to do and network and incorporate all that into it. Since we do not currently have an economic development position or office or team or anything like that, I think we're trying to figure out where's the cart and where's the horse. Do you think it would be valuable for us to have a separate established team, committee, board, whatever it is, that works in conjunction with the team that you're putting together?
No.
Okay.
So my thought on it is the money allocated, in my opinion, would hire someone to focus some of their efforts onto Vienna. So that person would work under our umbrella, which we would then pay them fringe benefits and take care of those types of items, and they would work under our wheelhouse. Now, what I have proposed is there are some items in there about what we call downtown Vienna, where Kim's office is in the bodega. That I think is more of a Main Street feel. So there's been discussions about trying to form what's called an on-track organization. That's what downtown PKB was prior to being a Main Street organization. That I think could have a separate person housed either under the city of Vienna or a separate organization. But the way I would prefer to do it is to hire someone that I can teach how to do the things in Vienna, and then I would oversee that person, as would Kate in my office.
Yeah, because I was trying to see, it's not necessarily, well, I mean, it is. I think it's an ownership and a territory situation. If we're hiring you to do this, we don't want to be in competition with you because that's counterproductive. So and it could be something that develops in time. I think it's important for us to take a good first step, whatever that is, and I think you're the right one to help us do that. And then in time, I could see us, eventually, if we, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road or whatever, saying, you know what, we should hire our own person, or maybe the person that you hired is the one that we say, they're not on your payroll anymore, maybe they're on our payroll.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. And then we would be able to potentially transition that relationship from the team that you have to a team that works. So it's more like, who do they report to? Are they reporting to you? Are they reporting to us? And that kind of thing. So just to, and so the stakeholder group that you have together, like the mayor would be on that, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Along with the group that you're putting together. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So to just clarify what you said, a position would report to me, I would report to you all. I think the report states quarterly, or as you have questions, I'm happy. I have an open door policy at work. People can stop by anytime or call. That's how I foresee it going in the future. The stakeholder group, I think the first step of that is almost like a focus group. You sit down with folks. Honestly, my thought is it's going to take more time, but to do it one-on-one at first. I've been in a lot of focus groups in my time where people will sit there and not say one single word, and then afterwards they'll come up and tell you a million things. So that would be my number one, and then get people in a room together and bounce things off of each other. I think there's different ways that it can happen, but the end goal is, if you live and you work in Vienna and you care about Vienna, how do you want to see it change and how do you want to make it better? And that's what we want to do.
Go ahead.
So toward that end, and you're talking about, and I've understood that since the beginning, that with the city adopting the proposal and the expanded proposal you've recently provided, that you do envision adding a staff member. We talked about ways to supplement that within our community efforts, and because we talked about 3 different areas we're interested in. But here's my question now. So we've got this resolution and ordinance in front of us, and we also, although it's not on the agenda, we've appropriated the funds to retain your organization in this capacity.
Mm-hmm.
We have an updated proposal from you that has not been on our agenda to vote on yet. And it goes back to what Melissa said, a little bit of the cart and the horse. Would you think that allowing us to get this proposal, if adopted by council, in place with your organization, and then taking a look at these vehicles for the city to come up to speed? Because you just said, like a one-on-one, how do you want the stakeholder group to look? We'd like to have your advice on that. Mm-hmm. And I think I think that if we could wait on these couple of things until we get your agreement in place and then get you to help us draft these things, I think would give us a better informed way to adopt, whether we want, how we want the stakeholder committee to be, how we want the, if we're going to do a governing body, a economic development authority. Do you agree that that would be a reasonable approach, or do you have a different opinion? I just want to know what you think.
I'm trying to make sure I understood your question correctly. So you want to table tonight and then?
Yes, we have a resolution for a stakeholder committee, and then we have an ordinance which will take 2 readings to create a separate economic development authority. All right, you've read those 2 things or at least seen them, correct? Right. So we're sitting here getting ready to vote on these things when we haven't even put your proposal in place or gotten the benefit of your advice. Is this the best way to work with you? That's what I'm saying. Because I'd kind of like to see what you think, this is in these 5 people and 7 people, and maybe you want 10 and maybe you want whatever.
I understand what you're saying.
That's my point.
You really caught me off guard there.
Well, before you answer then, can I hop in? Because I have some questions related to this. Chris, Jim, and myself were in this ad hoc committee, and we met with you back in July.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's been going on, and we had great conversations, and I think we have a lot of agreement on things, and we have some disagreement on stuff. But in your proposal, your original proposal, and I understand that it's being reworked right now, and we don't have that before us tonight, but regardless, in your original proposal, you talked about having a stakeholder committee to work with your organization, and, there was a price tag attached to that, et cetera. And that you've gone ahead and you've looked at, you sent me the list along with everybody else, just some phenomenal people. I think I knew probably most people on the list. I mean, I've owned a business for 25 years, and so there were just some great people that I think would bring a lot of benefit. So, Chris and I were responsible for writing the resolution, and it was based upon really what you put out in that proposal, okay? And so we both really wanted a resolution versus an ordinance so that we have some flexibility, because it's been said many times before, that we might need to change this, we might want to do that. And so therefore we didn't want to codify this into an ordinance. I mean, because if we make it an ordinance, then it's codified, then it's going to take, 2 readings to repeal it or amend it. It just becomes kind of clunky. When thinking about that resolution, I put in 7 people because I was trying to think in line of our other boards and commissions that we have in our city. For example, the Planning Commission, we have 9. Tree Beautification, I think we have 8 people. And on the Park Board, there's 7 people. And so this is a volunteer board, basically. And so you get more diversity of opinion. Everybody has their own circles of influence, right? So that versus the ordinance, which once again is limited to 5. And I guess I don't see why we couldn't move ahead with a resolution establishing the stakeholder committee. We're calling it the Economic Development Advisory Committee. All these different words. But anyway.
My life is acronyms.
Yeah.
So here, it's okay.
So we would be establishing that based upon your recommendations, and I'm sure council may have some recommendations of people that we would want, and then kind of whittle that down, and then council could approve who that is, and we get that advisory committee up and running and started. And are you suggesting possibly another step before we get to the resolution where before we put together a stakeholder committee?
Personally, no. So, and again, you all are the governing body here, right?
Right.
My thought is, I submitted the proposal. I want the Wood County Development Authority to basically assume Vienna development efforts. That's our goal. My personal opinion would be, I don't think there needed to technically be the formation of a separate board. I'd go on to say, I bet over 60% of my board are residents of Vienna as it currently sits. So they already have a vested interest in what goes on in Vienna. When that change came to me, I'm happy to abide by, I understand it's a significant investment of funds. So if you all prefer that we have a body, whether, I don't know what they're called up here, Vienna Development Authority or what have you, I am fine with that. So, but I'm also fine with meeting with stakeholders and allowing it to be fluid and then getting some advice from you back on how you want that plan to be put into place. I'll be honest with you, economic development is as pivotal and fluid as it comes. I go in my office every day, and I can't tell you the last time, because it's never happened, that I've gotten everything on my to-do list done or it hasn't changed last minute. So it's going to be like that with this plan too. It's just how it's going to go.
That's kind of where I'm landing now. I'm really not seeing the need. This goes back to the ownership part, like the territory, like what belongs to what. And I think that team, that stakeholder group, should be a group that is run under you, that you're assuming that for the city of Vienna, and that you are the one that's keeping us in the loop, as opposed to us creating a separate body right now. I think a separate body is going to be necessary in time for continuity, for longevity. But for right now, I'm not seeing the need for the resolution or for the ordinance that are on the agenda tonight.
For me, the problem with that is it's not open. We have a planning commission, for example, it's different, but they have a lot of similarities to what a planning commission would do and what we're talking about with economic development. And so they have meetings, and it's open, it's in the sunshine. I don't like stuff behind closed doors, because we work for the people, for the taxpayers. And I understand that there are certain things that are going to be really sensitive that you can't discuss. And there are ways of, if you have to go into an executive session, or it's just not something that goes on the agenda, because the situation is delicate and it can't be discussed in open. And that those are the same situations that happen in the Planning Commission. Businesses come here, they're interested in, and so they're talking to code enforcement, and they're talking to the city, and, but we don't necessarily, they know about that directly, you know what I mean, with the Planning Commission. And so I would caution against not having a stakeholder group that's up and running and, available, in where this is government. It's not private business. And I've preached this since day one up here, and I'm never going to change about it because I believe it. So that's why I would be really uncomfortable having an ad hoc group or whatever that's just liaising with your office. And I have complete faith in your office and your abilities. I mean, Lindsay, we've had that conversation many times. But I just don't. I don't want it to be something in the dark.
I understand, and I think to answer that question again, I have an open door policy as it comes. When people call, we talk to them, we walk it through. There are things that I cannot talk about because I signed non-disclosure agreements. So that's why I suggested perhaps Mayor Rapp's already on the board by statute. There can be another city council person on the board, if that is what you so choose, who is covered by a confidentiality agreement. That's one way to go about it. I think that the stakeholder group, anything that they share to me isn't going to be private. That's something that I can come up in front of you at a council meeting and say, here are the results of what these stakeholders said, and here's the path forward. Kate in my office does a really great job of taking notes at every meeting that we have. I would have her do that same task in those meetings. But again, I don't think anything that would come out of a stakeholder group would be private or something that I wouldn't feel comfortable getting up here and sharing with all of you.
Will you remind me how many stakeholders you're aiming for? What size group? Do you have a certain number in mind?
The list that I proposed, I believe, had about 30 people on it.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I am. I think we're all moving in the same direction. I really do. And, the proposed committee or the authority, there's two documents pending. I think I think I'll anticipate the proposal that you've brought forward this week is going to come up on a vote. And I think we then work a little bit more and say, okay, you look at these, because you're saying stakeholders as many as 30. This committee is 7, and and 7 I both make sense in some fashion. But I think that we just need to take this the next step forward with the proposal and say what kind of a group do we want to put together, what works for you, because I don't think we've had that conversation with you yet.
No.
We've got your proposal, but in terms of how we interact with you, so I would say that we carry this forward and just keep working on it. Until we do get a consensus and majority vote, and so that's what my suggestion for tonight, that we continue, that we table these and continue to work on developing an agreement with you, and then also an interface with you that makes sense for all of us.
Are you making a motion to table?
I'm not yet. I'm just trying
Just a moment.
let everybody put in their 2 cents, and I'm just not feeling, that everybody's on the same page yet.
Okay, so you're not making a motion?
Not yet.
All right, thank you.
I think
Chris?
anyone else has any
Yeah,
discussion?
so I think we've had a really good discussion here tonight and kind of getting a better understanding of what we're trying to do. I think everyone does agree that we want to move forward with economic development in the city of Vienna in the best way we can do that. And so kind of going off of some of the things that everyone has said tonight, I think it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when we had talked about this months ago and before, and the resolution and ordinance that are here tonight kind of are a culmination of that. But for a stakeholder group, as was kind of listed in your proposal, you see that as something that the Development Authority kind of owns, operates, manages with the kind of person that you're going to hire to work essentially for the city of Vienna, correct?
Yes, but under my office's umbrella.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So, and maybe that's where I have maybe misunderstood some things, because the reason that, I worked with Kim to create that resolution for an advisory committee was I sort of understood that as a need coming from your proposal that the city would have to work to kind of get a group together to work with you.
I think you all are that advisory committee as you sit on council, frankly. I mean,
yeah, and so that just brings a lot of clarification for me, because I want to make sure that you guys have everything that you need to be successful to help us. And I don't want to get in your way or step on anyone's toes. And I think that's kind of the consensus tonight, is that we want to give you and equip you with what you need and get out of your way to make things work. And, I think I would be happy to kind of move forward as Jim suggested, because it sounds like we can work together and we can communicate with you as often and as frequent as we see necessary. But it doesn't sound like we are going to have basically a stakeholder liaison, if you will, for the city of Vienna to communicate with your organization in order to make sure things are working.
no, again, the stakeholder group to me is almost like the eyes and ears, right? When I created that list, I tried to find young people. I tried to find people in the middle of their careers. I tried to find people towards the end of their careers, people who were retired, family businesses, small businesses, large businesses, you name it, I tried to hit it. I think it's important to get all of those different aspects, especially people that have lived here their whole lives, who, have seen it change and progress and whatnot. So my thought is, those are the folks that you talk to get a better understanding. You all are the elected. The people of Vienna elected you. So to me, you're that advisory board. I will get up here and report back to you all about what I am seeing and what I'm hearing, what the path forward that I think we need to take, what grants that, I think that we should be applying to, and what those will be utilized for. And that's how I see that going. I think, again, everybody has the same end goal. It's just economic development is confusing, right? I mean, if I called my brother right now and put him on speakerphone, he could not tell you what I do for a living. Something with businesses. That's what I've heard him say to people. But it is difficult, and I get that. But I'm happy to stand up here and answer whatever questions you have. I'm happy to move it to the next, council meeting if that's what you're comfortable with. You just tell me.
Can I just interject so that I understand it, so that if when I get asked questions, that I can advise it somewhat intelligently?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No. You're going to do it anyway. So.
Well, I wasn't. So basically, you have a proposal that says the city of Vienna will engage you for the sum of $75,000 or whatever it is to be paid in installments. And what you will do is you will engage with 20 or 30 people that run businesses of various demographic makeup that run businesses in the city of Vienna. Those 30 people will give you things that they need. You'll gel that down to 5 proposals or 10 proposals or whatever that comes out of it. And then you'll look for funding sources for those things, and you'll say, okay, well, we've got 10 things here that this stakeholder group, which is the 30 people that are part of the city, that live in the city, work in the city, and what have you, these are the things that they think will make business better in the city. Then you'll say, these are the funding sources that we could potentially use to facilitate going forward on those programs or whatever, those proposals. Then you'll come back to the city of Vienna and go, look, these folks said we need these 5 things. These are the 3 places that we can get money from them. It may require the city to kick in some money, but this is what I figured out in talking to these people. How do you folks want to proceed? Is that essentially it?
That's one arm of it. So
Okay.
the other arms of it include John's Manville, right? City-owned property that I think everybody agrees should have some future use. The former OVU property, and Dr. Tori Jackson, if she's listening, I'm sorry, she told me I have to quit calling it that. It's going to be the WVUP Tech Center. The land surrounding that facility is also one of the items on that list because you have about 300 acres sitting right in the city of Vienna that needs developed. Our office wants to work with WVUP Foundation to develop that land on behalf of the city of Vienna and on behalf of WVUP.
And that's the second one.
Correct.
And so you're saying also you have these assets within the city. These are the projects that might line up for those assets. These are the funding sources. You may need to kick in some money to help develop it, or whatever. You may need to make zoning changes. You may need to do whatever. What do you folks want to do? That's your proposal.
Yes.
Okay, then we have a resolution on board, and the resolution says,
We're not to there yet.
well, I know, but this is part of the, I'm just making sure I understand it. We have a resolution that says essentially the city has 7 people that it would like to be as part of this stakeholder group in order to review the activities. And then finally, we have an ordinance on the agenda that says we have a body that is composed of 5 people with terms of 3 years that would essentially do the same thing, review these proposals. And as I understand it, and they would be a recommending body to council, the same as this EDAC, this temporary body. Is that how you understand all of this to be?
Yes.
Okay. And so your recommendation tonight, or your conclusion tonight is, based on your proposal, that you feel that neither the EDAC board of 7 members that's created, nor the board that's created by ordinance consisting of 5 members are necessary for you to facilitate the project that you've proposed.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just making sure I understand.
Okay, so I received your proposal today, but it was obviously past the time for it to be included in the council agenda. And so I agree with Mr. Leach. I would like to see it tabled and not deal with either one of these 2 items until we get that agreement where it needs to be. Mr. Skogstad did a very nice job of summarizing the ideas here. We're close. We just have to make sure that the agreement that we're going to enter into with the Wood County Development Authority points you in the right direction of what we would like to see, some results. So, and my last comment is, if you talk to President Tory, you tell her that if she wants to put the flying WV up on our water tank instead of OVU.
Oh, she's definitely going to want to. So.
Well, no problem. Bring her gold paint, okay?
Oh, she has it. Trust
There
me.
you go. All right. So anyway, is there any, Mr. Azinger, we haven't went to you this evening, sir. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I can't understand. My mind's like a dish of scrambled eggs. I don't know why we need an advisory body to the advisory committee.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I think one advisory committee seemed to me to be perfectly fine.
Okay.
But that's the only comment I have.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right.
So I think at this time I would move the table. Oh, go ahead. Good.
We're still on discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're going to come out of that. All right, and then we'll go on to item number 10, which is a resolution forming an Economic Development Advisory Committee. It's a resolution forming an Economic Development Advisory Committee. I would entertain a motion for the approval of that resolution. Hearing no motion, then I will say that that one has failed. Moving to item 11. Item 11 this evening is an ordinance on first reading, creating the City of Vienna Economic Development Authority. Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby creates the Economic Development Authority, the VEDA, for the purpose of facilitating economic development within the City of Vienna. I will entertain a motion for the approval on first reading of that ordinance creating the City of Vienna Economic Development Authority. Hearing no motion, then it fails for this evening. All right. Last item on our agenda this evening is an update. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item on our agenda this evening is an update on the Jackson Pool. We had our meeting on Tuesday with all of the contractors. Obviously, the weather has slowed the construction down, but the various groups are moving indoors to work out of the weather as best they can, and they are completing tasks to this point on schedule and slightly ahead. So we still anticipate that we will open Memorial Weekend, and contingent on the weather, but things are moving along very nicely. So, any questions on the pool update? All right, that concludes our agenda this evening. I have a council comment that I would like to make. At our council meeting on February the 22nd, we will have a public hearing at 6 o'clock. The Planning Commission approved the comprehensive plan. It now moves forward for council consideration, and that public hearing will be at 6 o'clock in council chambers.
What was the
Other
date
comments?
again?
I'm sorry, Roger.
The date of that again, Mayor?
22nd, February 22nd. There's a 15-day waiting period for the advertising in the newspaper and all that, so that's it. Mr. Azinger, any comments this evening?
No, sir.
All right. Anyone else?
I do. There's 2 days left to file for mayor, recorder, or council. So tomorrow during business hours or Saturday, I will be in the office here until noon. If you do come on Saturday, because I am not on the financial, I'm not employed in the finance department, then I can't run credit cards or debit cards or anything. So if you do come Saturday, bring cash or check. So
How much?
it's $120 for mayor, $60 for everybody else.
All right. Lindsay, thank you for coming. Bill, thank you for coming. Greg, thank you. God bless you. All right. Michael, thanks for your assistance.